Motherfucker.
You know what? You know what the angry German told me earlier, which I see as bullshit. He said that I'm okay. So right now I'm not allowed to hang my clothes in my backyard, but apparently you're allowed to be naked in a park, and I call bullshit because I've heard of many times of a guy peeing in a park and getting indecent exposure. So how are you able to, or getting like a sexual offender kind of charge? So you're telling me this?
No, hold on. Wait, what country are you talking about?
Well,
States?
Or you're not in Germany.
Not Germany.
That's what I'm saying. Here you can, but he's saying in Germany you can't.
No, I mean, there are public parks. There are areas you can lay around naked and no one gives a shit.
Well, I've heard about nude beaches and all that, but like if
no, it's not especially. I mean, there's in Munich. There's a garden called English Garden. It's public garden, public park.
Yeah.
In the summertime, feel free, get your blanket out, your towel, whatever.
Are you allowed to, like, hey, you know what, I just got out of the shower, I haven't checked my mail yet this morning, walk out to your mailbox butt naked and be like, hey, neighbor, you walk inside?
No one gives a shit. I mean, neighbors do give a shit, but, I mean, they were probably just laughing.
He thought you were.
Look at he's running.
Does he have an innie or an Audi?
Well, that movie,
I mean, you
business
can,
trip, they do that.
I mean, there are a lot of groups in Germany, they do events like riding on a bicycle naked.
Yeah.
Through the town.
Wow.
I mean, people look, but they are amused. They're amused and not like here ashamed or whatever you can call it. I mean, it's another thing. I mean, you can freely talk about. I mean, did you see that the guy yesterday killed the other one, shot in the head, and all the brain was.
Yeah, and that goes back to sex.
And here, and then sex and about sex.
Well, German.
No, we don't talk about sex.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about sex. We talk about killing. What?
Yeah. He was saying like
European porn sex.
European
in Germany,
porn
the
sex.
Scheiser movies.
The Scheiser movies. Scheiser movies.
Oh, you don't know what to do. Isn't that where they take shits on each other?
Yeah, Scheiser movies.
What?
Scheiser movies. Well, we have
you watch kind. You watch.
No,
He's watching. You nasty.
No.
I always knew.
But besides
something,
all of that,
something hidden in you.
No.
I hope you washed your hands before.
No, I didn't. I gave it a little extra flavor.
Yeah.
Do you or do you not have a Scheiser fetish?
I do not have a Scheisen fetish.
Not yet.
No. You know what? My fun fact is actually nothing to do with culture. I didn't know we were going to go that route, but they started bringing them up beforehand, and we were writing them down. But you know what? I heard yesterday, and you guys may have known, Jack Nicholson, who is, of course, the actor.
He lost shit.
No, seriously. This is dead honest. Jack Nicholson
is a woman.
No, god dang. I had to build a suspense for it. Jack Nicholson, who the actor is, did not know that his grandparents, that his parents...
They were blank.
No. Jack, god dang it. Jack, you're going to make me the angry American, okay? You don't like Americans angry.
What I'm saying, you're taking so long.
No, Jack Nicholson found out that his parents at age 30 were actually his grandparents, and his mother was his sister. Now I'm assuming. Now this is a. Are
they from Alabama?
No. I mean, Ralph is from Alabama. That's the bullshit.
Okay. My half of my family is from Alabama.
Yeah, but I didn't catch the rest of the story. All I caught was that Jack Nicholson at age 30 found out that his parents were actually his grandparents, and who he thought was his sister was actually his mother. My only logical explanation of that I can think of
years ago.
Is that his mother may have had him at a very early age and said, Mom and Dad, I need your help taking care of this, And she was like, but how can you, being a mother of a child, act like a sister? And then, I can understand grandparents acting like parents. It happens all the time.
Who is a biological father and mother?
His father wasn't around. Jack Nicholson had a sister.
He was raised by
his grandparents.
But his sister was his actual mom.
Yes, his sister was his actual mom. So let's put this way. His grandparents, when he was born, all throughout his childhood and early adulthood life, his grandparents, in real life, he thought were his parents.
Yeah.
Okay? His mom, he thought was his sister until he was age 30 and found out the truth. So so I can understand grandparents acting like parents.
Okay, how old was his mom?
That's what I don't know. That's the only logical explanation.
Probably very not young. To get embarrassed by neighbors again because pointing finger at you. Yeah. They took over and said, "It's my child. It's your sister." And kept
why wouldn't they do it okay, I'll help you take care of it till you get on your feet.
Right.
But then to carry the charade for 30 years that I'm
You don't know.
that's nuts.
You don't know the what happened, the environment, the surrounding. You don't know that. Why they
I
did
don't.
it. You don't know.
That's
that.
what
I mean,
that's
now,
what
if you are living really in a little itty bitty town where everyone knows each other. Hey, did you hear my neighbor last night? He farted.
Yeah,
I hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want to get embarrassed by things like that.
Well, then apparently you should have moved sometime 25 years ago.
Maybe
Did
the
you
grandpa
find out one of
had
those like Ancestor.com shows or?
No, Jack Nicholson's old as hell. You know, his family.
You know how
His
old
family
is hell?
just told him when he was. I mean,
It's fucked up.
he started asking questions to it. I guess he had heard something is what I was picking up to another family member, and he's like, "What?" He started asking questions, and they told him. Why not tell him when he's 18 or becoming like a teenager where he can comprehend it? Natural, this whole time he's been thinking that his sister is his sister.
It was when he was 30 years old.
30 years old.
So that was probably 45 years ago.
Exactly. So here's
Who gives a shit today? We got
That's
2015.
that's my fun
2015.
fact.
Who gives a shit?
But you guys thought about it. You know, that's still. You can see the angry German's getting all upset.
You can see the wave file peak when the angry German.
Either we're laughing or he gets pissed off. It was my fun fact. I thought it was a crazy fucking fact because how would you not like? I mean, think about it. Like, what do you do afterwards? After you find out that your mom's your sister, do you start acting like she's your mom, or do you continue with a charade that she's your sister?
Probably.
I think you just go with her.
That was the time he started drinking.
Yeah,
probably.
He would need to. But
Well,
anyhow,
he's like he's at the age where he doesn't have to. He'll probably lose his mind a couple years down the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is kind of what makes this even more ridiculous to me is that Ben Affleck was on. There's a reason I asked was that he's on that show where it's like know your ancestors or whatever.
I've heard of it. Like
And you know what I'm talking about? And
Yeah.
where they do the DNA testing and they tell you who you're related to and all that. And so
Never
the big.
I don't have a TV for the last 16 years.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So basically, they take your DNA, they map it out, and then basically they just show you who you're related to. So you could be related to
Alexander the Great, or something like
Alexander
that.
the
You know, they go
What
way
the fuck?
back.
What? How can
They
what? Do they have Alexander the what?
No,
do they have
what they
his
do
DNA?
is
fucking
okay.
bullshit.
They
They
have-
made up for TV just to
Fair enough.
just to get a quote.
I understand,
Fuck that
but
shit.
I can
They
understand a
people
piece
believe
of
that
it.
fuck.
I can understand a piece of it because they've been able to compile.
Yep.
They've been able to compile enough data to say from the different continents and look at your DNA and say, okay, we can tell that somewhere your ancestors are from South America or from Europe. You're 85% European and 15%, African descent.
But then
I
they
don't
can
understand. I'm
localize it even
gonna
more.
let my blood
Absolutely.
test it, and maybe I'm related to you.
We all
You
are.
will.
We all are.
Eventually, right?
We all related.
'Cause there was some incest going on
Somehow
with
we are
Adam and
all
Eve, right?
related. We are all brothers. Somehow.
See?
Huh?
Until next time.
Well, what I was going to say is that Ben Affleck, the scandal was that he got his tested, and he found out that in the 1800s he had a slave-owning ancestor. First of all,
Oh my
So
God!
surprising,
man.
right?
1800. No, I'm not watching any movies with him. No. I'm stop.
exactly.
No.
What was he scared of? Like that's not news to
It's
anybody.
like maybe my.
But he covered it up and censored it.
Okay,
That's the thing,
My great grandfather was a Nazi.
right? But you're not
You know
gonna.
that?
But it's not surprising to anyone
Yeah,
here.
it isn't like
And
that.
you know what? I don't give a shit.
It's
Because
not you,
I
it
wasn't
doesn't
even
matter.
born.
You didn't
Yeah,
own
you shouldn't
slaves, or
care.
you didn't.
That's
kill
why,
Jews.
and this may get people pissed off, when I still hear black people talking about slavery that are 17, 18, 25 years old nowadays, you don't know of a family member that knows of a family member that was a slave. So why do you even bring it up? I mean, like, why pull that card? That's the same thing as pulling, like, worrying about it. It's not a racial issue. It's just like, quit bringing up slavery. It's been fucking 150 years.
Well,
It's over. Like,
the-
not
But
saying
it's a selling point. That's
Absolutely.
how they sell shows
Yeah.
with shit like that.
Well, people
not
don't.
saying it was a good thing. I'm just saying it's not relevant nowadays.
It was
Like,
in that days. It was back in the day, 1800 something. It was bad. It was a bad thing. But what happened? It happened.
Well,
You
let me
can't
say-
change
well,
it today.
let me say this.
150 years ago.
Let me say this. First of all, the institution of slavery was a triangular trade, right? So you have
Absolutely.
to think of there was a source they were buying these people from? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, other Africans, right?
Yes.
And
So
I have to say, Europeans and Germans,
they have to.
with the triangle.
There was a king.
They were exchanging. No, wasn't it that exchanging that Europeans they bought from African slaves, lower income people,
Right.
and they traded it with Americans for goods,
for crops and so
Right.
on.
like crops and spices and things like
Yes.
that, and fabric.
Absolutely. Which is, it's not relevant. It's.
Well,
I mean, it is still relevant.
It is
but
relevant.
I mean, it's you
Yeah.
can change it. Happen. It's the same
Well,
with
exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
With
But
Nazi Germany, Jewish, it happened.
Why
happened.
get mad at me if you're a black person or a white person or whoever and say, yeah, that's why your ancestors were slave owners? Okay, so what should that even mean? Like, what am I supposed to get upset that I was born, 150 years later than maybe one of my ancestors was a slave owner? No, that's not gonna bother me.
What would you expect?
Well,
You have to kill yourself now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're guilty.
Yeah,
Kill
exactly.
here's a gun.
Hey, well then you ought to, if that's the case, go back to Africa to some of the ones. I'll hear a bunch of, because there's a bunch of conflicting arguments in this. But go back to Africa and kill one of the upper tribesmen that were in Africa at the time that sold you to.
And they were rich. They were rich.
Absolutely.
right.
They were.
Well, that's the whole thing I was going to say is that you have the issue of you want to blame white people for slavery, which they have a part in, of course,
Right.
big part. But you have to understand that your own people are complicit in
Yeah.
this trading of
They-
your own
yeah,
ancestors.
absolutely.
And the thing,
They
and-
sold. They own their own folk. Sold their own folk.
Yeah.
But here's
So-
where it's relatable to today is that actually, you have to think that people. Slavery is not really part of the conversation. It's what happened after slavery
Yeah.
in the Reconstruction years in the South, where they basically
Shun them
they
from everything.
shunned their rights to vote and stuff like that, and so they had no power to become farmers or grow anything outside.
But at the
of
same
community.
time, my grandpa that had grew up broke sharecropped at the same time in Lower Alabama and also in Tennessee that didn't have enough money, they couldn't buy their own land. So he was sharecropping right alongside black people at the same time because he couldn't. So we were just as broke, you know what I mean? So it's like there's a black president right now. Like it's not.
I don't think that anyone or everyone in the South were into slavery. I don't believe.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, it was. I would say probably 30% they were, and they were against it.
People need to realize that the Civil War, slavery was just a sweetening for the Civil War. Civil War, and from what I've gathered, was yes, of course, that. But Abraham Lincoln said himself that if slavery wasn't abolished, but if the South did not secede from the Union, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. He wanted to abolish slavery and put the amendment into the Constitution. Yet, the whole point behind the Civil War was the South secession from the Union. That was the whole basis.
Yeah, but you have to understand that. Why did they secede from the Union? First of all, taxes, and number two, because you have to. There was some unfairness to kind of all this. Is that they had a partnership with England,
Right.
and they were selling their cotton to them.
Yeah.
Well, basically,
Or
they
did
put
Boston tea.
No,
something?
that was revolutionary.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So they put strong tariffs on anything that was being exported out.
Absolutely.
And so that really fucked up their economy. And see, but the North had become more industrialized, so they didn't need Southern slavery to keep their economy going.
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of unfair because really, the South didn't have ports to bring in slaves.
No.
Where the slaves actually came through was through the North, and then they got traded.
And they shipped them down.
They shipped them down. So you have this kind of hypocriticalness on the North's part where now that they don't need the slave trade anymore, they're going to impose these tariffs on them. But to get back to the main point about slavery was that part of the reason they seceded was because it's really the question of the West, right? And you have this new acquired territory that Thomas Jefferson got, right? And they also won from Mexico, and so or Spain, and so you're like, are these going to be free capitalized markets from the North where you can have industrialized cities, or are they going to be slave-owning populations. And the South wanted it to be slave-owning populations, the North wanted it the other way. And that, so you had the Missouri Compromise and stuff like that. And that's really what led to it. But this is a perfect segue into our Baltimore discussion because, but what I want to say, slavery is not really, if you really think about what really fucked up the black community is the for-profit prison systems, the crack epidemics and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's what fucked up the black community.
Yes. And
that's what's the majority of the problems.
Baltimore is fucked. It's so stupid to me, and this is kind of getting into our last topic, that you would assume that stealing, looting, catching places on fire, beating innocent people up would change anything that occurred. No. You are messing with the effect and not bothering with the cause.
Yeah.
That's the whole point behind this situation.
Yeah.
Okay, and you never see on CNN, the white people that have rioted. I've seen it. Kentucky wins a game every time in Lexington on that road. There's a riot.
Right.
But Kentucky, no, and I heard a black man talk about this earlier this morning, and this isn't trying to be a racial divide, but Kentucky knows that every year that they win this certain game, there's going to be a riot on that street. They bring in fake cars to burn, they let them do their thing, and then the Kentucky students clean it up afterwards. From what I've known from people that actually go to school at Kentucky. So people are saying, well, you only see these black people on TV that are doing this. Well, what happened with Freddie Gray, and if you don't already know, and what pieces that I know, and we've kind of talked about, is that he was arrested for what? I don't know. He was able to himself walk into the back of a police wagon, not into a car, and by the time he got to the police station, he had a spinal injury. So something occurred, unless he already had a pre-existing condition that nobody knows about, but something occurred in the back of the police wagon, which everybody's assuming, of course, is police brutality. They broke his back or messed up his back, and he ended up dying from complications. So, of course, the protests begin, and they're walking, and they say they walk through. Now, this is what gets me. They say they walked through all the toughest neighborhoods in Baltimore, and nothing happened. Because, in my opinion, nothing happened because that's an all-black neighborhood, and they were most likely gathering troops. It was just like, as they were walking through and people saw it, people would migrate towards that because they saw them going towards the white community and towards the city of Baltimore, into the actual city. And they were saying nothing happened. But as soon as they got around white people, again, apparently the white people started shit and they started, all hell broke loose. So you're telling me that you have no kind of sense of self-control, that if a white guy calls you an N-word or says something because you're acting foolish, or not saying you were acting foolish at the time, but if they disrespect you, that's supposed to make you burn down somebody who had an 80-year-old woman's grocery store right next door to it and take all of her shit? That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And let me speak to it on this level, too, because you're talking about having self-control and stuff like that. I mean,